little bit more aggressively than they would be used to in this matchup, frankly. I'm curious what the bans were also coming into this.
I would have to imagine it was Hunter on both sides. At least I know from Reynad's point of view, he despises playing against Hunter at the moment. So it seems to be a high priority ban. Although who knows, maybe he bans something else because it is RDU. It could be an exception. Now it is going to be a little bit tough. He is facing off against Handlock, and right off the bat, he is playing Miracle, so it's one of the tougher matchups for Reynad. But he is on the coin, and he does have the availability of Auctioneer at his disposal.
Pretty important one to pick up, no doubt. But Sap is also important. And it's a matter of how much he weighs Deadly Poison and Fanatize right now. I'm curious how exactly he's going to mulligan this.
Yeah, what are some of the other cards that are high priority in general against Handlock? Is it like Eviscerate, Backstab with something, or is it just like you want more draws off the Auctioneer with things like Preparation?
I feel like things like Gnomish Inventor are important, honestly. Blood Mage, yeah, Azure Drake's really important. Pretty much any of your minions that are going to get value and be on the board are important minions. Because you just, again, as you were saying, you want things that stick to the board and you can get value out of it that way. Your spells are almost always going to be good, but your minions are not always going to be good.
Okay, Reynad picks up a couple of important cards to cycle as well as the spell power. RDU does have that forward mana cost drop that's going to be super critical to not miss. He has two of them, in fact. Twilight Drake as well as the Mountain Giant. And oftentimes it does come down a little bit to flavor of how you prefer to use them. And Reynad wants to get ahead of it so that way he doesn't have to drop Thanos and Eviscerate or something. If without it, he needs to kind of use the mana that he has at his disposal in order to deal with any 4-drop.
Right.
Or does he?
I like the Blood Mage, honestly. I thought Blood Mage is really strong because you anticipate your opponent dropping something that costs 4 this turn, so your Blood Mage is gonna get value. Like even in the face of this Twilight Drake, so this turn would have been Shiv and Eviscerate, which is 5, 7 damage, 8 from your dagger, and then 1 from the Blood Mage. This would have been 9 damage to take down the Twilight Drake. As it stands now, this is probably going to sit on the board for a turn.
Well, at least he used his mana a little bit more efficiently. He could have been afraid if his opponent didn't have a 4-drop. He could have just gotten Immortal Coiled, and then he would be back at square one, where he still can't deal with the threat.
You know, that's fine, but if your opponent doesn't have a 4-drop here, and instead they have Mortal Coil, well, that means they don't have a 4-drop, so you just don't even have to deal with one. It just reduces Blood Mage's importance that much.
True, true. By the way, the Farseer in the hand from RDU will be able to negate a lot of what this Eviscerate just accomplished. So, a nice little pickup here from RDU to be able to answer immediately what Reynad has.
I don't know if he plays the Farseer, or if he plays a Drake, or if he plays the Mountain Giant. He's got so many options here. This is probably a turn where you want to just get value from your Farseer. Kind of go from there.
Okay, well, Reynad also has Auctioneer, which is nice, and there's no Shadow Flame on RDU's side.
Yep. This probably... Earth Entering Farseer I think is good here, but it's almost always going to get value at any point in the game. I really would like to see Twilight Drake or Mountain Giant here.
Okay, preparation first, because if he picks up Conceal, he'd like to use it. And he's gonna sap. Okay. That way, I guess you can use Deadly Poison to immediately take it out and then make it difficult for the Handlock to immediately address it.
You do want to draw a card here, but off the Backstab. But I think the Backstab is important if you're using on a Twilight Drake or a Mountain Giant that's going to come up. So I like holding it here instead.
Sure.
It's pretty rare that I like that.
Fire.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that I like something like that, but this is one of those scenarios.
All right, the Mountain Giant coming out. As good as time as ever. He loses a Twilight Drake, so essentially that sapped eventually killed the Drake. Unfortunately for RDU. But you know what? He's got a lot of other threats too. I think he would have loved to discard the Molten Giant because it's rare that you're able to use that unless Miracles run out of tools completely and has to kind of rely on, say, like a Van Cleef to end the game.
Yep. He's playing the Mountain Giant here instead of one of the Drakes, by the way, because it's a turn he wants to start turning up pressure. His opponent's at 23, so Twilight Drake is not nearly as impactful as it would have been a couple of turns ago. And And so he just needs the extra damage on the board.
Okay, Reynad has a way to deal with this Mountain Giant with SI7, backstabs, and using his own face, but then you start entering kind of like weird zones where you might be trading a little bit too much of your own health in order to kind of get rid of it. So it depends on how Reynad wants to really approach this turn. Because he does have Farseers to bounce him back. It's just that you're not exactly sitting on the safest health period for a long time.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Eviscerate.
Doesn't have enough mana, though.
A little bit short.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. He's committed to this play once it started, which is really unfortunate for him because 8 damage is a lot to be paying to take out a Mountain Giant,
which costed 3 in the first place. RDU picks up Faceless Manipulator, just continues to put on pressure. He has Twilight Drake available to him. Why not? And now Reynad still has to kind of go back, but he does have a lot of creatures and things to do.
He's getting a lot closer to turning the corner. If he can manage to deal with this adequately, and the next turn, if he's stabilized through it, I think he's fine. But RDU's also coming up on lethal here. You take a look; he's already got Faceless, Power Overwhelming, and Leroy Jenkins in his hand. So if he manages to survive till turn 10, this is going to be a really tough one for Reynad. And with cards like with being able to taunt up 2 Ancient Watchers and with a Siphon Soul, the race has begun.
Reynad also kind of hating over what he can kind of do to make sure that, you know, he's not overextending into Hellfire. Even though these 3 drops are nice to have, you don't want to have too many of them all at the same time. Looks like he's going to go for a Big Bang Cleave.
Yep.
But then
this is
this gets Siphon Souled.
Yeah, this is almost exactly what RDU wanted. Wow, now he has options even. The Owl.
Wait. Oh, wow, he's 1 damage off lethal at the moment.
Is he really?
Yeah. Because he has Leroy Power plus the
Oh my gosh, he gets silenced to... Oh my gosh. I definitely missed that. Wait, so he should be using Siphon Soul and then taunting up the Ancient Watcher here, right?
Taunting or attacking?
Well, if you taunted the Ancient Watcher, it's like a really hidden lethal.
But if you attack into it... You have Faceless with Leroy, so even if you clear, you have to clear and heal up.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about... Why was I reading his life total as 18 instead of 15?
It's a little blurry. I totally side with you here, but the fact is RDU has 12 damage from the hand next turn, and then 20 the following turn. Reynad has a huge task. He's pulled himself out of tight situations in the past, but I don't know if he can pull himself out of this one.
So he heals for 3. He'll go to 14. And then, yeah, his major problem is having a way to clear this board. 17,
I think if Handlock shows that they're attacking with Ancient Watcher, that they have to have Leroy in hand.
I certainly would begin to consider it as a much heavier portion of his range.
Is there a way to effectively do this? Like, we're having a hard time figuring out the actual way to do this, and we have full information. Like,
I don't know if he can. I mean, he can go to 17 from the Earthens, poke the Owl. He falls to 15 that way. He's still lethal. If he plays Earthen Ring to heal himself, SI7 the 4/4, Shadow Step SI7 the 4/4, he's still dead to the Owl.
Yeah.
If he SI7s this, and then Shadow Steps the Earthen Ring to put himself in 17, he would be at 1 then? Yeah, but he doesn't have the tools to do this, honestly.
Oh,
and here we go.
RDU charging up the match a little bit, quite literally, with Leroy. As he is going to use Faceless and Leroy to end this game. And overkill just a little bit. Why not? Game number 1 goes to RDU as Handlock takes out Reynad's Miracle.
Yeah, a lot of sense at the outset, and then he didn't follow through. And I'm not sure it cost him, but it certainly would have been a difference.
All right, well now Reynad will have to move past his Druid deck and his warrior deck remain, he is going to side with the warrior, and I think this is the one that he said he was more comfortable playing against handlock, but you know, you didn't want to lose Miracle that early on, as he might be struggling against RDU's rest of the decks, right? Because RDU still has Miracle in his hand, or in his lineup, and he's also going to coin out and hero power. Again, this is a move that a lot of people kind of debate about all the time, which one's better. Do you have any thought in terms of the coining hero power here?
Well, if you coin hero power, you typically want to have something to do on turn 3. So, here, I'm not sure it matters too much. Like, if you draw something like Earth Emerging Farseer, it matters a lot. But outside of that, or even if you draw like an Ancient Watcher, it matters a lot. But as to stand, he's just not going to hero power this turn. Just going to pass.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And if he kept the coin, do you think coining out the Drake would have been better, or should have been waiting?
I don't think so. It's a lot of it. Again, it's going to come down to his draws. Like the way his hand's panning out, I'm not sure he really needs to coin a Drake. This is a good spot for Reynad though. This shield slam is going to capture a lot of value. 410 though.
Yeah, he has execute, which is also nice.
Yeah, this could just be a Sludge Belcher turn. A lot of things can happen here. You could even face this Manipulator your opponent's 410, but you're risking Ironbeak Owl that way.
Yeah, that would be devastating, and you lose so much, and your opponent cycles and draws. I think Sludge Belcher is a much stronger play, especially considering you have Shield Slam and Execute in hand.
Yeah, I like Sludge Belcher a lot here. We were talking about how one of the more effective tools you can do against this deck is having things like Sludge Belcher, where it dictates your opponent's attacks from things like Twilight Drake and Mountain Giant. They want to be attacking much more important things than Sludge Belcher and the 1-2 taunt that Sludge Belcher makes. So this makes a lot of sense to have a strong tool like this against him. But look at this.
All right.
And Soulfire coming out.
Soulfire, and it discards the second Soulfire. Oh, man.
Which I think is actually a pretty good discard here for RDU. If you look at the rest of his hand, what other of these cards do you want to discard? This probably, by the way, just looks like a...
Thank you.
It looks like a Brawl turn to me. Like, is there a reason to not slam Brawl here? I guess there is. You can do this and Execute. There's a lot of different plays to do this. I feel like Brawl is so strong. Like if
I think it's what you touched upon earlier in the day. It's where if you do have Brawl, then your opponent knows that they don't have to ever worry about Brawl this early into the game. And also, at worst, you know, you might have to use 2 removals in order to kill 2 threats.
Yep. Problem with this is that now his armor shredded, and RDU doesn't have to commit any more to the board at this point. That's why I think the Brawl is so important here. If your opponent had to commit more, it would make a lot more sense. But this also could have been a turn he was looking forward to, is playing Sylvanas first before the Brawl. That makes a lot of sense also, but there's still a risk that Sylvanas just takes an owl. It's going to be an interesting one. Oh my gosh, he could faceless the Sylvanas, and then he's basically
just
take
back whatever he takes. The Death Rattle triggers so that the second Sylvanas is almost always superior to the first one because it triggers second, which means if you have an empty board after the steal, then you take whatever you just took.
Still like Sludge Belcher here, though. Again, sort of dictating how your opponent is attacking is a really powerful tool right now with these mid-sized minions.
Ooh. Okay, how does Reynad kind of go about it? You know, keeping Faceless and Power Overwhelming is also kind of, you know, if he picks up Leroy, he wins in a few turns. So I think RDU is a little hesitant to just try to go for the exploit, just to kind of follow up on your explanation of Sludge Belcher. Focusing back on Reynad's point of view, he has ways to deal with this. It's just, you know, how much are you able to kind of afford here? I think developing Death's Bite and trying to get drawing cards with Acolyte is ideal, but you still need a way to deal with the big Twilight Drake that's out there. For 3 turns now, Brawl being put into the equation.
Yeah, I feel like
right. The fist fight has begun, and Sylvanas will be stealing the Sludge Belcher.
Not a bad outcome by any means. I think it's that might have been better than taking Twilight Drake, honestly.
Sure,
I think the ideal outcome is you keep Sylvanas, but
Yeah. Okay, RDU picks up Hellfire, which doesn't help him the most at the moment. Or does it? Does he want to kill off the Acolyte before he can draw? I guess so. No, I thought he wanted to perhaps develop and just kind of leave it, but it makes sense too if you just want to deny the draw immediately.
Ooh, he picks up Shield Block. That's a really important one right now.
Yeah, Shield Block, Shield Slam. You're able to execute everything.
Yep.
But he's going to develop Kieran instead.
Yeah, the developing here is definitely what you do. It's the fact that you have that tool available to you. So it's making it so powerful.
Yep.
Death Spite too. He wants to start getting these Death Spites active. That's 16 points of damage in his hand that he's not utilizing right now. So that's something he's going to be looking forward to the next couple turns as well.
Alright, Faceless on the Cairn. Cairn, a card that Warrior does tend to struggle with. And Defender of Argus to start pushing through. And Brawl has been utilized, so RDU feels a lot more confident about just tossing out things on the board. So Reynad can start chewing away and using his Death Bites and his Shield Block, Shield Slam combinations in order to kind of push through. Trying to calculate.
Yep. It's a fun opening to try to use the Skirmish with the Death Spite.
Mm-hmm.
Almost certainly the first thing you're doing is turn to Shield Block.
Yeah. Almost you want to get that out of the way, but just in case there is an opening elsewhere. You want to start considering all the options. Shield Block first. Into an Armor Smith.
Ooh.
That might be helpful. The Armor Smith allows him to start gaining armor while being able to pick apart things. And then he'll have a 4-5 Bane to deal with. But the taunt is not there anymore, so he's going to struggle a little bit in that department.
Yeah, it looks like he's debating between an Unstable Ghoul and Death Spite. Armor Smith and Death Spite, or Unstable Ghoul, Armor Smith and Armor Up.
Alright.
It's going to be Death Spite and Armor, yep.
Okay. RDU now has the initiative, but he's kind of run out of threats to play other than just the Bane that's currently on there. And let's see, does this set up a lethal possible for next turn for Reynad? He's going to have 14 with Gromosh plus 4. I don't think that's lethal by my count, especially now with Mountain Giant and the taunt potentially coming up.
Wait a minute. No, if RDU doesn't taunt, this is lethal.
Oh, because he's life tapped, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Because we kind of miscounted the fact that he might put himself into range. But I think
so
he does have the availability to taunt. There's no reason not to.
He has the availability to taunt. It's a matter of whether or not he will. I mean, there's a chance he doesn't. I'm not saying he's 100% going to. Yeah.
Maybe he feels like he needs to get better value off of his Ancient Watchers, but I can't imagine a better way to taunt up here in case what your opponent has Gromosh.
This would be a dangerous spot to not taunt. Oh my gosh, he's thinking about it though. Okay. Whew.
Execute can still do this, right? No, actually he could not. He needed precisely... No, he couldn't do anything, really. Now he has to deal with this Mountain Giant. He picks up a Fiery War Axe, which, you know, the redundancy of this sometimes is so painful.
How do you make this happen?
How do you even begin approaching this?
Yep. This is tough. You might have to just use Gromosh here. Which is really bad news if that's what you have to do.
Yeah, Grom is your finisher. And it seems like Reynad has met that big wall and he's not able to push through just yet. His weapons are kind of redundant, but he can use the opportunity to develop a second Death Spite as well. He can gain some back of his armor. He's not taking as much damage as before. I think this is what he's going to do. Just cut his losses. Start developing once again.
Yep. That's the second time he's had to take 8 in 2 games, by the way.
Gosh. That just feels terrible. Meanwhile, RDU still searching for legitimate threats, but because he faces that Cairn, as much as he lost combo damage, he's able to put pressure back.
Yeah, Molten Giant's okay right now, but he really wants another top minion. I mean, he's still facing down 14 points of... potentially 14 points of damage next turn. So I'd be a little bit surprised if he chose to use Life Tap here. Oh my gosh.
Surprised you are. Zone. And if Reynad picks up a cool Taskmaster, that's game.
No. Wait, it is game. Yeah, because he can just cruel the...
Yes. Oh
my gosh.
Not shield slam.
Oh my gosh, he's 2 damage off lethal. He needs one more turn. He is going to really hope that RDU can't taunt next turn. Here's something interesting, too. RDU may need to go for a Mortal Coil on his own Bane next turn to try to pick up a taunt.
That is interesting. Let's see. How much damage does RDU have next turn, by the way? He's got 10,
18.
14. He's got 18 in the hand, and he needs to reach a little bit more. So Leroy would be the lethal. I mean, maybe he doesn't even have to reach for a taunt. He just reaches for Leroy.
That is possible as well.
All you gotta do, you got 3 chances. That's still pretty good. If there's 12 to 13 cards left in RDU's deck, we'll have a 33% chance around there to draw into the exact game.
Reynad he could put his opponent at 2 and deny the Life Tap.
Oh, you're right. But then
he would also kill off the Bane this way.
A really tense situation, because if he doesn't do damage and RDU doesn't Life Tap, then he's in a tough situation. He needs to kind of set it up so that way he has a way to win. He's gonna go for immediate proc.
Oh my gosh! Instead. Oh no! How's he ever gonna kill his opponent now?
Well, hey, how about this? How does RDU kill his opponent? He has to draw into his other Molten Giant.
It's true. But that burst, I feel... Oh my gosh. And look at the cards he picks up. Those are 2 beautiful looking ones if you're in RDU spot right now. Because those are basically minions that just draw extra cards.
My eyes are open.
Okay, but Reynad does have Fiery War Axe, and he does have a good amount of legendary cards. Baron getting off the
gosh.
Top. Little awkward because of the 2 damage across the board.
He's probably still going to have to use Fiery War Axe here. Wow, Death Fight having to trigger 1 turn too early.
That is true, you're right. Oh man. Putting awkward situations over and over for Reynad, but I think this Baron again is going to come out and try to weaken up the board. RDU still needs a little bit more. Although no, actually he can Shadow Flame and Mortal Coil to deal with this.
Which is likely what he's going to do. I mean, this is a pretty major threat. And your 4-2 Ancient Watcher, I don't think he's going to get much work done. Wow, and he picks up another taunt too. Oh my gosh.
Well, he's got only 1 target, but
wow,
he's got Loatheb off the top, which is a big draw for RDU. And now he puts a lot of pressure on the board. Reynad needs a way to deal with this. Cool Taskmaster, a little bit too late, as he is agonizing over that choice, and now he's choosing to pass, and RDU can start pressuring.
We don't know if Reynad has a second Brawl or not, but second Brawl is one of the only cards I think that's going to pull him out of this. Wow. Look at how quickly this game turned. But this is what happens when you have 2 cards a turn.
Ooh, Harrison Jones not being the most helpful either, but at least it's something. And RDU currently has 12 damage. Leroy still finishes it. Or even a Soulfire. No, he discarded second Soulfire with Soulfire. Ragnaros off the top.
3 plus 4 plus 8. That's 15. He's 1 damage off. But this is, I mean, this is going to be a Ragnaros turn. It's hitting the board.
Possibilities.
I think so too. I think you go for the 50-50 to win the game.
It's a 50-50 to win the game this turn also. Ragnaros is pretty much a closeout card here.
I think so. Ragnaros kind of pulling a lot of weight here for the handlock. And Reynad will go down 0-2 and have to rely on Druid in order to pull him out. But it's going to be tough. If this game ends here, which is a high likelihood, even if it doesn't, how does Reynad pull himself out of this situation? Oh, Harrison goes down, so there is a little bit of life. Oh,
Takes the bullet.
Man.
Two Cruel Taskmaster's not going to do it, though. And that's going to be game 2 over to RDU now. Wow. What? That was a really well-played game there from RDU, honestly. He led into his mid-game. It was very strong, and he had a strong game plan pretty much the whole way line, and hope that your opponent doesn't have any way to deal with it. But that's, frankly, I think it was his best chance to win, was to try to get a Grommash activated for lethal on his opponent. Because once he loses the Grommash, all of his burst is gone. And so once his burst is gone, how's he actually going to finish the handlock player? He's not going to grind him out of the game. He's out of a lot of weapon damage at that point. Both of his death bites are gone. He doesn't have any more charges. Pretty much Ragnaros is the only thing left in the deck that's going to get it done.
Well, you know, he set it up so that way he was successful, and it worked out for him. Meanwhile, Reynad has a pretty quick start, actually. He has like the equivalent of an innervated Yeti, in a sense, because of the way the Ancient Watcher sets up. Speaking of Yetis...
This is a really strong open. Yeah, this is
my God.
8 power on the board on turn 3, followed by a Chillwind Yeti. You want to talk about early pressure.
Double
Wow,
Yeti.
another Chillwind Yeti. This is so much power.
It's a lot of raw mid-range creatures, and Reynad even has Savage Roar. Say he does a little bit of damage, holds back, and then just use Savage Roar to finish the game. I mean, that can be just devastating right there.
Never underestimate the power of enough 4/4s put together to deal an overwhelming amount of damage. You're looking at lethal next turn.
With our powers combined, we can slay the handlock. Whoa, Molten Giant comes in the hand of RDU.
Giant already costs 4.
Turn 5. I mean, it's basically another Mountain Giant.
Holy cow. Yeah, you have to taunt up here.
Shields up.
Start trading blows.
Sure.
Innervate was Innervate lethal there? Yeah, Innervate was lethal.
Oh, man.
Does he get a Savage Roar and then Innervated Silence?
Mm-hmm. Okay, is it now time to play a little cleanup, or can you continue to press? A little tricky. I mean, RDU actually has a lot of good ways to deal with it, because he has Molten Giant and Taunts and Farseers to kind of put himself out of range. But Reynad's got to be really careful with how he does this.
It feels really weird to say Savage Roar here, but I think Savage Roar is not that bad. You can use your face and one of your 6 power, your 4/3, or say, for instance, to clear out the Mountain Giant. You use one of your 4/5s to run over the Ancient Watcher, and you just put 6 damage to the dome. Your opponent's going to be at 8. It does enable Molten Giants even further that way, but you've kind of taken this really aggressive line.
Mm-hmm.
You might just be stuck. 2/3
You still have Silence, too.
Yeah, the 2/3 is going to counterattack.
Kind of
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he's got to make something happen.
Oh, I think it is.
Oh wow. Here we go. I like it.
All right, Reynad is not going to wait till the end of the clock on this one. Just going to push. Do what he can. Now, RDU is going to be having free Molten Giants. Second Molten Giant would be absolutely epic for him. Oh, he does have Shadow Flame at his responsibility, too. Mortal Coil first to draw to see what he gets. Molten Giant and a Taunt.
My eyes are open.
Wow. Second taunt is just that's so heartbreaking.
Yep. And now all of a sudden RDU's the one threatening lethal.
Wow.
And it seems like Reynad might be forced to play defensive despite opening really aggressive.
Yeah.
And he's forced to try to charge into here. There is 7 damage. RDU has 11. If he draws one more way to kill him off... if he had any Soulfire or Leroy, that would have been game. But look at this. Oh my
think-
goodness, what a turn this has been
Yep.
for RDU to set it up, and I don't know what Reynad can do anymore.
Yeah, I don't think there are any cards in his deck that can get him out of this.
Wow. RDU able to kind of pull out with Molten Giants and Taunts. I think Reynad's going to drop here 0-3. And RDU is going to advance to top 4 and play against Trump. RDU with a little bit of celebration. I didn't get to see what